Hello everyone, I'm making this video to talk about the ending of my playthrough and especially the part where a divine was chosen and what do I think of the three choices. Obviously it's Vivienne, Cassandra and Leliana. I thought it's Cassandra, Leliana and Mother Giselle. Still not 100% sure if Mother Giselle is not an option, but for argument's sake let's consider her not an option. In what I said in my previous video when I talked about Leliana, Cassandra and Mother Giselle pretty much stands, but now I'm going to include Vivienne in the mix, and I'm also going to include some of the feedback I got from you guys in the comments. And it's some of what you said I agree with, but a lot of what you said I don't really agree, so let me try and explain. Now, what you've said, I'm trying to kind of summarize. A few people said that Vivienne is the worst option as opposed to Leliana being the best option. Someone even suggested that I got one of the worst endings because Vivienne became a divine, which I totally disagree with, by the way. But let's start over and talk about Leliana, Vivienne and Cassandra. So, Leliana. My thoughts about Leliana are very specific to the specific playthrough I went through, if that makes any sense. While I don't really have a problem with her ideology, I do feel like she won't have the willpower to handle the position of a divine properly. Let's consider for a moment what she's been through. When she was very young, her mother died, then she became a bard, which is basically a spy slash assassin slash entertainer. She did that for a while. She fell in love with her bard master, or whatever it's called. She got really close, really attached, and then she got betrayed by her. She got locked up, she got beaten to nearly death, she got raped, or at least that's what's implied. Then she escapes and she goes to the chantry and becomes a sister, from an assassin to a chantry sister. Basically a complete reset in lifestyle. She goes on as a sister for a while, and then she has a vision, and she shares the vision with the rest of the chantry, and they kind of laugh at her, or at least they do not approve of her vision, and she gets angry again. She starts doubting herself. Then she joins the Grey Wardens. Well, not the Grey Wardens, but, Alistair and the main character of Dragon Age Origins. In the meantime, her spy master is hunting her. She sends assassins after her. They confront. She lets her go, but she's very... she has an internal conflict. Part of her wanted to kill her. Part of her wanted to let her go. This whole thing is part of her hardening process in Dragon Age Origins. Then around the Sacred Ashes part, she's doubting her faith a little bit in regards to the Maker and so on. And especially if the Warden doesn't really believe that strongly in the Maker like my Warden did. Then she falls in love with the Maker, with the Warden, sorry. She describes that as being the happiest time of her life, and then he dies. And to that, she gets an epilogue that implies that she committed suicide, and even if she didn't, it's pretty clear that it was a super heavy shock for her. And then she goes back to the Chantry, and then the Chantry turns her back into a spy slash assassin, and she's doing that for the Chantry for many years. And again, she grows very close and very attached to the current divine. And then she dies too. Do you see how for the third time in her life, the person she cares about the most dies, and she always feels kind of betrayed because the Maker didn't help them, because she was also her faith was very strong. When we meet her in Inquisition for the first time, in the very first conversation, we see her saying things like, while she's praying, at some point she starts saying crazy stuff like, "Do you want blood? Is that what you want?" Something like that. And it's kind of scary, and it shows that she's breaking down, basically. She gives orders around for people to be killed. She becomes very ruthless and really very different. I think one of the most obvious and in a very subtle way to show how changed she is from Origins is the conversation bit where you can ask her almost the exact same question you can ask in Origins. You say something like, "If you're a bard, you must know many tales." would you care to share some of them? And the response of that in Origins is, of course, I love stories and they're for everyone, they should be shared, and I can tell you one of 10 different stories, and so on and so forth. Here, in Inquisition, she says, if you want stories, go to the library. So yeah, then the things in the Fade happen and the Divine apologized to her. Again, she questions herself. She wonders why the Divine said that she betrayed her, and we realize that the Divine was sorry that she used her, kind of like Marjolaine used her in the past. And the whole story of Leliana is full of these ups and downs and doubts of her personality, of who she is, of her faith, losing the ones she loved. And this whole thing, in my opinion, overall, just messes her up. And I don't feel like she will be able to rule well under pressure. And she will either resort to assassinations, in my opinion, or she will just do some other crazy stuff, if not properly monitored. So maybe as an advisor to the Divine or something, but not as a Divine herself. So those are my reasons why I don't think she's a good Divine candidate. I don't know, maybe it was BioWare's plan all along. Maybe that's why they kept her alive and all that, to ultimately make her a Divine. But I don't know. Even if she has the best epilogue, I still wouldn't pick her. Maybe it's more of a personal opinion, maybe you don't agree with, but I am pretty convinced that she's not going to be a good Divine. So that's my reason. It's not what she wants to do. It's not like I don't want the Chantry to be open for Kunari and Dwarves and so on. And well, that's a good idea, by the way. Let me talk about that for a moment. It is, of course, the way things should be, I think. If you get denied something because you're not human, then you have a recipe for disaster. But we saw in Origins how one Chantry, one very small Chantry with one priest, let's call him, in Orzammar made such a huge problem. People were killed, the Divine got angry, so making everyone equal into the eyes of the Chantry is a hard task and has to be performed very carefully. So that's it basically. You might say that my reasons are more personal than anything, and they are, but there you have it. Now, moving to the next point, which is Vivienne. Now, I don't know why people think that Vivienne is the worst choice. I think she's a very interesting choice, for sure, but surely not the worst. Let's see, what's really bad about her? I mean, when she gets elected, apparently there are revolts, but that's because she's a mage, which isn't really her fault. So I'm not going to consider that. While it is a problem, people should get over it. It's a very good way to show that mages can in fact rule stuff, that they're not unsuitable for that if the chance arises and if the person is the right person to do so. And the other thing is her love for power and her strive for high position. With that, I agree. It can be a problem. It can in fact be a huge problem. It might also not be a problem. Maybe she just wants to have power and she will enjoy it and she will handle it properly. It doesn't mean that she will try and convert the world into the first galactic empire or something. She doesn't want to be the queen of the world, the way I see it. She just wants to rule. She just wants to have power. She likes it. She enjoys it. She likes dealing with nobility and play the Elysian game. And those are things that she will be doing on a regular basis. That's one of the reasons why I don't think Cassandra is a proper choice, but I'll get back to her later. I honestly didn't know that Vivienne is an option. But after she got elected for Divine, I went back and remembered her conversations. And there were many things that seem like she's gonna make a decent Divine. If you remember her very first conversation, you can ask her about what's it like to be a mage. And she gives a very, very good response to that. She says that this question is the very core of the problem regarding mages and Templars and everything. She says that it's a very different experience based on where you're from, who you are, how powerful you are, who your first enchanter is, and so on and so forth. There's a huge amount of circumstance that defines a mage's experience in the circle. So it's very specific, and that's true. And this is the thing where I think if she's a divine, she will address that and she will treat mages probably the best way, out of the three divines. She will realize that every mage is an individual, that every circle is different. She has to focus on fixing different problems in different areas and so on and so forth. I think she understands that very well, and I don't think she will abuse the mages. Maybe she will want to be on top. Maybe she will want to have personal touch in all affairs, but that still doesn't mean that she will somehow abuse the world to some personal ends. I think becoming a divine already accomplishes her personal ends. Once again, I stress that her hunger for power could lead to something horrible. I'm not saying she's the obvious best choice out of the three. If that's how I sound, I don't think so. I think she is the best divine for the mages. That's for sure. I don't have a reason to believe otherwise. Now, I think it was Hitokiri who suggested that, actually I'm not completely sure, but I think someone said that it was wrong for her to vote against the independence of mages, and I disagree with that. I've said that in the past. I don't believe that completely freeing mages from all responsibility is a good thing. And if you disband the circles, that's what you're doing. If you're going to disband the circles and then force the mages to go into some sort of training programs or something, that's not really independence. That's still, what's the difference? One is just called circle and one isn't. It really depends on how the circles are run. And I think she can run them properly. She can maybe decide to give mages freedom after they've completed their harrowing or any other rites of initiation. She can also serve as an example that mages can rule things, that if they're trained properly, they can be in control and they can be free to do more stuff. But I don't think all mages should be absolutely free as the rest of the people are, just because of the fact of how dangerous they are. You saw in Redcliffe, in Dragon Age Origins, how one possessed mage child can bring destruction to an entire village / castle / whatever, Redcliffe. In short, I support the mages. In Dragon Age 2, I sided with the mages. That was not just pure chance. I really thought that they were being oppressed and so on and so forth. But in the same time, I feel like the circles are a necessity. I'm not sure if Vivienne will handle things the best way again, but she has the potential. I think she sees that mages require to have certain training and certain discipline, and at the same time she knows that they are capable of being independent, and once they're strong enough, they can be given more rights, more freedoms, and so on and so forth. And again, she can serve as an example that mages can rule and that can rise to power. So I think Vivienne is the perfect compromise. The best out of the three between freedom for mages and having circles. Because you can have the best of both worlds. You can have the circles intact, and you can have the head of the hierarchy that polices the mages being a mage. So I think it's the perfect compromise between mages being free and deciding for themselves, and having them be in a more controlled environment, at least until they are ready to be given more freedoms. But once again, I stress out that I don't think she's a perfect divine. She obviously has hunger for power, and it's apparent in her epilogue, and it's apparent in how she was mistress to the... Was he a duke? To basically gain stuff she wouldn't otherwise gain. It really depends on how far she'll go. It's possible she'll go too far, but it's possible that she will not. I mean, look for example at Balin. He appears to be a good king. He appears to be a better king than Harumant, even though I chose Harumant. Balin arranged or helped arrange the deaths of half of his family to get to the throne. She didn't kill anyone to get to be a divine, but the point is that wanting to have power doesn't necessarily mean that you will be an evil ruler or something like that. So I don't think the fact that Vivienne enjoys having power and wants to have personal stake in all affairs as a divine makes her the worst choice or something like that. I don't really see the evidence for that, if you will. I feel like she will be loyal to the Inquisitor and the Inquisition. I don't feel she will abuse her power into doing something stupid. Also, with Cassandra as the leader of the Seekers, I think she will play a major part in making sure that everyone is treated fairly. I don't think that if Vivienne gives Cassandra some horrible orders, Cassandra will just comply with it. So I think both of them will do good. Maybe if there was even a chance to get Leliana to be an advisor to Vivienne, that would have been great too. So yeah, about Vivienne, there are dangers with her becoming a divine, but I don't think it's, it's an obvious worst choice. Definitely not. And I think it's probably the best choice for mages. Especially in this particular playthrough where the first enchanter joined Corypheus and all that. Now let's touch briefly on Cassandra. If I had to pick one of the three, Cassandra, Vivienne, and Leliana, I'll probably be uncertain between Vivienne and Cassandra. Cassandra doesn't really have major issues, other than the fact that I don't think she is divine material. Like, I feel like she is meant to be the leader of the Seekers. The Seekers are in bad shape. They are needed. They need a new leader. Cassandra wants to be that new leader. She wants to reform them into something good. The Seekers are more about honor and justice and truth and that kind of thing, and that's exactly who Cassandra is. She's not the type who would walk around in a robe citing canticles of the Chant of Light and attending ceremonies with nobles and playing the religion game. She doesn't like that, and I don't think that's for her. So that's my main argument against Cassandra. If forced to do it, I think she will handle it. She will do an okay job, but I feel like being leader of the Seekers will come much more naturally, and she will be able to utilize her full potential there. And if she becomes divine, who will lead the Seekers? Maybe they'll be disbanded. Maybe she'll try to do both. I don't know. So that is it, I think. I could be wrong about the things that I've said. I realize that my opinion of Leliana is kind of more personal than it should be, probably, but that's the game for you. That's role-playing. That's how it feels on the inside, And Vivienne, she was a surprise. I didn't expect that she's an option at all. Let me just say something else, because when I said Vivienne, I wanted to say something, but I forgot. In another of her conversations, I remember that too, I think it was when you asked her about what she thinks about Cassandra and Leliana. First she talked about clothing and behavior among the people and the nobles and so on, and she explained how a divine should behave. And then in another conversation about Leliana and Cassandra, she points very clearly what a divine should be and which qualities Cassandra has and which qualities Leliana has and which qualities they lack. And at that point I was like, well, if you're so much of an expert on that, why don't you go, run for office? But I don't think that was possible because she's a mage. But yeah, basically I think Vivienne will do an okay job. I think she will handle the officials, the nobles, the game very well. I think she will do well under pressure. I think she will be a just ruler for the mages. And after the dust has been settled with the fact that mage has been made the new divine, mages will, I think, prosper. under her. And the obvious issue and problem is that she is the Iron Lady. She wants to have personal stake in everything. She wants to maintain control of pretty much all aspects. She wants to be on top of everything. And if she turns out eventually to have some dark intentions of taking over the world or something, bad things may happen. And if that happens, then I would probably agree that she is the worst divine. But again, like I said, I'm more certain that bad things will happen if Leliana is the divine, and not so much about Vivienne. About Cassandra, I'm pretty sure that things will be okay, but I don't think she will handle the nobility, the game, the chantries. She's more of a seeker than the divine. So those are my thoughts. I think it's not accurate to make a scale to say Leliana is the best, Cassandra is the second best, and so on and so forth. No. These are complex matters, right? These are matters that concern mages, Templars, different countries, different species, different peoples, and it's just, it's very hard to foresee the future. So, yeah, that was it. This video has been pretty long, I think. Didn't intend it to be so long, but oh well. So, until next video, stay tuned and be good.